Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for introducing yourselves in the chat. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. On behalf of PTD Technology, we'd like to welcome you to the 2023 Expenditures Training. My name is Dewana McCrary, and I am your presenter for today's training session. In the chat, we also have Diana Terry, who's here on behalf of PTD Technology. She will be monitoring our chat this morning, so we'd like to say good morning to Diana. On your screen, you should see the expenditures training agenda. I'm just going to go through all of the points that we're going to cover in today's training, just kind of highlight what we're going to go through. And then we're going to navigate to the CTEIS knowledge base, the support.cetis.com. And we're going to navigate there and show you where some documentation is as far as instructional material that you can use to input your expenditures data. So the first item on the list this morning is the introduction. We always like to go through our support resources at PTD. So the information for support can be found at support.cetis.com. And we're going to go there and show you where all the documentation is. So that's the first item on the list. The second item that we're going to go through is to verify and input your expenditure data. In that category, we're going to discuss funding sources and process, as well as expenditure requirements and matches. So we're going to go through that information to show you the procedures within the documentation. And then the third item we're going to do is an expenditure review, validation, and submission, how to run the expenditures validation, and then expenditure submission procedures. So we're going to also navigate to a training site that we use to demo a lot of the procedures. So once we head over there, I'll give you the information where we are. If you want to practice along with some of the procedures with your own login information, you can do that. So we'll do that a little bit later in the training. This second page of the agenda just gives looking ahead to the upcoming collection periods. Again, just to reiterate and to remind the fall course and staff collection, the fiscal agent submits to the CBIT October 12th. And the CBIT submits to OCTE October 19th. So that's coming up. The expenditures report, the fiscal agent submits to the CBIT administrator November 2nd, and then the CBIT administrator submits to OCTE November 9th. So this is what this training is for. It's for this collection. So you want to keep those dates in mind. And then after the expenditures collection is the follow-up. So follow-up training begins October 17th, and we have 4 sessions in this training period. So if you have not registered to attend a follow-up training, we would encourage you to do so. And that's all we're going to be covering for today. So as I stated, we're going to navigate to the CTEIS support site, and I'm going to drop that web address in the chat, but I'm going to go on a brief pause while I switch my screen over to that site. So just a minute. Okay, so this is the support site, and this is what we refer to as the CTEIS knowledge base. It has all of the documentation that you would need for the collection periods. They can be found by clicking on the links here in the second half of the screen here in this panel. So depending on the collection period, enrollment, expenditures, follow-up, it'll just link you to documentation and steps to follow to complete these collections. So you can use these links. Again, on the far right side, this is the collection period due dates. And this is just a mirror image of the OCTE calendar. So if you have the OCTE calendar for 2022, 2023, that's the dates that are listed here. So this is just here for your convenience. We're going to navigate to the top of the screen, and these headers here, we're going to go to data entry, and we're going to select expenditures. This is the expenditures homepage, and this is where all of the reference documents that we will be covering today and the steps that you would need to complete expenditures can be found. So this first section here is the support material that I said that we would go over. So I'll just briefly point this out. The second section here is the verify and input your expenditure data. So these are PDF documents that you can print if you want to print for your own records, but we'll go through and point out some important points in this documentation here, and then we'll go over some of the other reference documents that are available. We have training videos on the collection period. If you want to use training videos a little bit later on, you're able to do that by clicking this link. Then we're going to go over how to review and run the validation. So these are the steps and procedures for building reporters, fiscal agent, and CPID admin. So all of the review guides are available here. And then when you submit your expenditure report, this is the submission process. This here is 61B. So as we go through our procedures, 61B, you want to submit your expenditure data the same way. But this is submission procedures for 61B that uses fiscal ISD. And then this is a monitoring tool guide that would be relevant to your information. So you can use that, but you can follow along if you're a building reporter that submits 61B expenditures. Like I said, the procedure is the same, but you want to take a look at those guides. Those guides are here. And then down here at the bottom is our training agenda that I just showed a few minutes ago. And then we do record our training. So then we post that link here if you want to go back and review the training. So here at the top, we're going to click the first link. And this is our assistance document. So again, as we state in every training session, technical help, if you need technical help, you can contact the CTEIS help desk, and the email as well as the telephone number is here. So if you have questions of a technical nature, if you're not seeing some of your buildings, if you are having trouble navigating through some of the screens within the CTEIS application, those are of a technical nature. You can reach out to the help desk and they can help with your questions. If you have reporting policy help, or if you need reporting policy help, you need to contact for expenditures. You need to contact Joan Church. So those reporting questions could be, as far as policy, it could be what funds do I use for my 61A1, and various questions related to where you put your money or your funds or your data that you're going to be reporting for the expenditure report. You want to direct those policy questions to Joan Church, and her email is here as well as her telephone number if you need assistance with policy questions. This information is here. Again, we just have all of the documentation that we use, and that all of the step-by-step procedures are found on support.cteis.com, which is this site. And then we post all of the videos to the links, so the links are available. These next documents here are the documents that we covered in training. So if you've attended any trainings this season, this fall season, you've seen the overview, the roles and access, but this just gives an overview of CTEIS, the roles and access information, who has access to what, that information is there. The timeline of CTEIS, it just kind of goes through and tells what the collection periods are and who completes them. So if you want to refer back to that document, it's available. You do have to have My Login credentials to access the CTEIS application. So if you are a new user and you have not received your My Login access, this is instructions for you to request that access. And then this is just outlining some the reference materials that are available on the support site. So all of that is here. That's what I'm going over. And then the due dates, again, this is just the OCTE calendar dates for 2022, 2023. And then that brings us to our first item on the list here, which is to verify and input your expenditure data. So this first link is an introduction, and we're going to go through this. Again, this PDF can be printed for your records if you want to review back or refer back to this. So the expenditure report collects the amount of state and other funds spent supporting state-approved CTE programs during the previous school year. The following types of fund expenditures may be included in this report is 61A1, 61B, 61C, as well as state and other sources. Just a special note, Perkins federal funds should not be included in your expenditure report. The expenditure report is important as it reflects the actual costs of operating CTE programs and is used to calculate program cost factors, which are included in the formula that generates 61A1 CTE added cost funds. So the primary goal of the expenditures reporting process is to accurately determine the cost of operating CTE programs. Therefore, it is beneficial to districts to report all expenditures required to support their programs. This information is used to determine one of the core components of the state funding formula. So another special note here, the program cost factors used in the formula to generate 61A1 funds are based on reported expenditures. An increase or decrease in a program's expenditures may affect the program cost factor for that program. Also, the total entered 61A1 expenditures cannot be greater than the 61A1 funds your buildings received. And you'll see that when we get into our demonstrations. So when reviewing your expenditures, make sure that you verify with your building reporters, identify funding sources correctly. So all of that information and data really matters when you're inputting it into the system. So this here is an example of a fiscal agency worksheet. This is what the fiscal agent would see when the building reporter submits the expenditures data. So this first section here is the 61A1. It shows the funds received. So that's the number here, the 1,799,000. That's the 61A1 funds received. The fiscal agency portion of the added costs of a CTE program, that's the 61A1 funds times the fraction of down here. This is letter B, so we're going to scroll down. The fraction is 4/3. So this is the 61A1 funds, which is the total here, multiplied by the fraction 4/3 to get this number here, which is B. And to define B down here is the added cost of a CTE program. C is the non-CTE cost foundation allowance. And that information is C. So that is the cost to operate to operate a standard course. So this is the non-CTE cost. And then this here down here is the total required expenditures, the minimum. You have to meet the minimum. So to go through this to give a little bit deeper understanding, A, which is this minimum, this is the total required expenditures. So to avoid recapture of funds, a fiscal agency must expend funds greater than or equal to the amount shown on the total required expenditures line. So you have to have your funds greater than or equal to A, which is here. And the total required expenditures are calculated by summing the fiscal agency portion of the added costs of a CTE program and then the non-CTE costs reflected on the expenditures worksheet. So that's for A. For B, the fiscal agency added costs, the state of Michigan will not pay more than 75% of the added cost of a program. Therefore, each fiscal agency must contribute local funds toward the operation of its program. Each fiscal agency must expend local funds greater than or equal to the difference between the amount of added cost funding, that's the 75% of the added cost, and the added cost funding at the 100% level. So it gives an example here. If a district receives 75,000 in added cost funds, it is assumed that those funds will cover 75% of the program's operating costs. So to determine the district's total obligation, you have to multiply the added cost funds received by the 4/3, that was the fraction, to get the 100,000 as the expending minimum. So in this case, the district is responsible for expending a minimum of 100,000 to operate the above program. So again, that's B. That's the added cost, that number that's here. And again, this will probably, you'll see all of this once we get into the demonstrations, but we have to make sure that we're meeting all of the requirements here. C is the non-CTE cost. So each fiscal agency must also expend funds for their CTE programs that reflect a cost comparable to that of the regular education programming. That's what I said, said earlier. The standard cost for operating a program is here. That's the non-CTE cost, that's C. So that's that 2 million number here. And then D is the 90% of 61A1 funds received. Each program must have at least 90% spent on program improvement. And the program improvement items can be found in the expenditures guidance. We're going to show you where those program improvement items can be found, and they're indicated by asterisks in the actual fiscal agency worksheet. So that is the number here. The 61A1 funds received, it has to meet what you received for the previous year, as well as fulfill 90% of the program improvement costs or program improvement requirement. So we're going to go through all of this again, but this just details what each portion of the fiscal agency worksheet means. And then we're going to go to the next document here. And this is collecting the expenditure data. So now that we know what the actual fiscal agency worksheet looks like once we complete the data and the data is in the system and how that information all adds up and the requirements that we have to meet, to collect the actual data that you need to put in the system. This is a document that kind of outlines some practices that you might want to use. So this top half here is just an example if you need to write down different individuals' contact information to get your information for your expenditures. So your business office should provide you with the expenditures information. The CTEIS application is compatible with the information that your business office gives to the FID, which is the financial information database. So they should be able to provide you with all of the data that you need as far as your expenditure report. So see your business office for that information. But if you need to develop a contact list of those people who work within that department or that office, this is just saying that you can set up a contact list here. So this is an example of a contact table you can prepare for yourself to make the collection of expenditure information easier. And the process of reporting expenditure requires that you first know the amount of expenditures to be reported, the program or the PSN where each expenditure is to be reported. If the expenditure applies to multiple programs or PSNs, you will need to know the percentage of the expenditures used for each program. So if your expenditures are going to be spread across multiple programs, you need to know the percentage that needs to be used for each program. This next document here is just letting us know that this is in compliance with federal law. So that information is here. And then this is general instructions. So the Career and Technical Education CTE program, fiscal agency authorized officials are required to file annual reports of program expenditure information with the Office of Career and Technical Education. Expenditures are to be reported only for those state-approved CTE programs for which enrollments were reported in the previous spring enrollment report. So last year's spring enrollment report is what you're reporting for in your expenditures. The fiscal agency or the fiscal reporting year is July 1st through June 30th of the following year. Your program serial number or PSN, each CTE SIP code or program operated by the district has a unique 5-digit PSN. So those are the numbers that you want to apply your expenditures to. The PSN identifies for each CTE program the SIP code, the CPID, the fiscal agency, the operating district, and the building which the program operates. So expenditures are collected and reported by PSN at the building level. If you need to generate a list of programs that received funding, as we stated, the spring report from the previous spring report, this is detailed steps to pull up the expenditure from the previous year. So we'll go through this demonstration when we're on the training site, but you can export that information in the grid once you pull up this information, once you're logged into the CTEIS application, and export to Excel and print that copy for your records if you want to pull up a list of programs that received funding. Again, that's from the previous year. So this is when we're actually going to enter in the actual expenditures entries. And this is step-by-step on how to enter the expenditures entries manually. So using CTEIS screens to manually input your expenditures. And we'll do a demonstration of that, but this just goes through and outlines. What I want to bring your attention to here, again, we'll go through step by step, but you can come back to this document and review the steps. But here, allowable expenditures. This first one here, added cost funds received by school districts and area centers must be spent on state-approved CTE programs. Again, a minimum of 90% of the added cost funds received by fiscal agencies must be spent on program improvement items. State-approved CTE programs must be taught by teachers who have vocational certification in that program area. And then this here is just expenditure categories for program improvement. So again, that 90% of the added cost funds received must be spent on program improvement, and this is some of those improvement items. So we're going to go through and show the expenditures guidance in just a minute, where this information is also outlined. So I'll show you where those are. This here, you can enter in your expenditures data manually, or you can enter it in using a distribution table. And the distribution table is not required. This is just an additional tool that you can use if your expenditures are going to be spread out through multiple programs. Again, you can use this distribution table. This is just an additional tool. It is not a requirement if your programs are going to be spread out across more than one PSN. So this is the steps on how to create a distribution table. An example would be if your building has a counselor and you want to spread the counselor's salary across all the PSNs in your building, you could create a distribution table. You can also create one if you want to bundle your CTE teacher travel time and spread that expense across all PSNs. You could create a distribution table. So to create the distribution table, you enter in a single expenditure to be applied by the multiple programs. The table will use percentages that you select to calculate the amounts to apply to each program. So for this example here, the distribution table, the selected name here is travel. The PSNs are recorded here. So that's multiple PSNs, and then amount to report is 25, 25, and 50. So for this particular example, if you enter a travel expenditure of $1,000 into the above table, CTEIS will assign $250 in travel expenses to PSN 07703, 250 to 14038, and then 500 to PSN 17755. So this is if you want to use this as an option. This is not a requirement. This is just an additional tool. So this goes through the steps on how to create a distribution table. And then down here is where you would select how you want to set up your percentages. If you want to do it by student enrollment, if you want to do it evenly, so it will be divided equally, or if you want to create custom. And this will probably be an example of custom because of the 2 here and then the 50. So this is just an option. It's not a requirement, and we'll demonstrate how to do that in CTEIS screens, but the guide is here. This is just a Q&A of frequently asked questions regarding expenditures entries. So this is here. Maybe you may have a question and you might want to look over that information. It is there. These 2 links here are the expenditure guidance documents. So this is a list of function and object codes. So expenditures use function and object codes to identify the expenditures within the CTEIS system. So this here, we'll go to the title page. I'll share this in just a minute. Okay, so clicking that link brought me to this expenditure guidance by category. So down here on the bottom, these tabs has the information here. So this is a proration calculation example. This is a salary example. So as you can see here, teacher, the function code you would use for teacher salary would be function code 127. The function description is CTE instruction. And then the object code is 1240. Salary is for teacher is the object description, and then the information here, report on the expenditure report, allowable use for 61A1 funds, that's a yes. Does this item fulfill the program improvement requirement? No. So just looking at all of these lines of information here, you can look at this chart and indicate under each particular category here the function and object codes. And this is just, again, an example. And then these here are the actual function and object codes. So let's see here. This is the guidance. So you can't actually type into this. This is just a guidance document. Employee benefits, local track. So this is all of the function and object codes for these categories. Move up. And then this also slides over. So there's several down here. Equipment, if you're looking for equipment information, that information is here. So you can use this information to review the items that are listed regarding function and object codes by using this. Again, this is an Excel document, so you could potentially print this in an Excel if you wanted to keep this for your records. But this is the expenditure guidance by category. So all of the categories are listed across the bottom. And this will probably make more sense when we're actually, if this is, if you're new to expenditures and we're actually in the CTEIS screens, you're going to see that you have to put in a function and object code to identify the expenditure. So that's what this is outlining here. So we're back to the home page of expenditures, and then this next document here. I'm going to share this. This was the next link, and this is, again, a report guidance, expenditure report guidance, and this was updated February 2022. So this here is additional, and then as you can see, it's broken up a little bit different here. So on the side here, it says salary, and then it gives the function object codes for the salary here, and then the description, and then whether or not it's a program improvement, if it's allowable use for 61A1, and then reportable CTE expenditure. So again, all of this, all of this information is here, and this may apply. So you might want to look through this. Again, this information may be provided in your actual documentation that you receive from your business office, but if you need to find function and object codes, these documents are very helpful. So earlier I went through the steps for inputting expenditures information manually. We're going to go through importing expenditures. So just like with all of the other collection periods, you can import your expenditure data, and this is how to set up your Excel import. So I do have a demonstration of an expenditure that I'm going to import into CTEIS. So I set up my import document to follow these columns here. So it says that your funding code needs to be 11 for now. The function and object codes, what I just stated on the other documents, you want to make sure that you have a function and object code and that it applies directly to the expenditure that you're trying to input into the system. You need a program code, a grant code. So that is if the possible values is a 61A1. If it's not 61A1, you could select other, or if 61B applies, or 61C. But the system in an import, if you do not have a value selected, it will default to a 61A1 if left blank. And this is useful because if you don't have a grant code in your import, it will default, and that can mess up your numbers if you don't want to apply that expenditure to 61A1. You need the school, the program type, if it's regular EMC. If it's left blank, it defaults to regular. So you want to make sure that you indicate the type and then the amount. And then this just shows how to import your expenditures. So this is an example of the expenditure screen when you have input your expenditure record. So we're going to show the demo on how to import, again, training videos, and then review and validation. Now for building reporters, this is what you're going to see. So when you run the validation, you have input all of your expenditures and you have all of your information in, whether it was through manual entry or through import, or using some of the CTEIS tools such as distribution tables. You have all of the expenditure information into the system, and now you want to review. So you would go to follow these instructions here on how to review. And this is just a picture of how it looks in the CTEIS screens. You validate, and then it gives you all of this information regarding the expenditures that you input, as well as the descriptions here, the function codes, the object codes, the where it's being applied, 61A1, 61B, or other. All of the information is here. It tells the total number of students, and then it gives you your added cost received number. So again, this is the number that we want to make sure that it matches here. So again, all of this information we're going to show in the actual CTEIS screens, but this is just step-by-step instructions on how to run the review. If there are no errors here, you can validate. Again, the errors will kick up if you put in the import. You'll see errors. CTEIS has the red errors to let you know that the information isn't correct. Again, systematically, I use that word, but in the system is what the errors would kick out. So if your data is input wrong in the system, you'll get the error message. But you want to make sure that your data is accurate by reviewing your material of where you want your expenditures to go. For the fiscal agent, the screen looks different here. So this is a expenditure report for fiscal agency authorized official. If you are a fiscal agent, this is how you review here. So that demonstration that I showed earlier, the fiscal agency worksheet, this is another here. We kind of went through all of the items that are located on the fiscal agency worksheet here and how it's broken down. To validate, you need to review it. So this just gives step-by-step instructions on how to run the validation. And then this is what you would see. So beside the worksheet as a fiscal agent, you will see the fiscal agency-wide totals table, which will provide you with a summary of your fiscal agency currently entered expenditures, and more importantly, information related to whether those entries have met the state's requirements. If your expenditures fail to meet the following two requirements, a red message will appear, warning of the potential loss of funds. So if your expenditures meet the requirements, the green message will confirm that the requirements have been met. So the two requirements are that your total expenditures reported must meet or exceed the total required expenditures. And then number two, at least 90% of the Section 61A1 funds received by a fiscal agency must be spent in areas of program improvement. And as I stated on that guidance document, both of those documents are very helpful to identify if you need to identify areas of program improvement. So you can select the correct function and object codes. So here we can see here that this have not met the minimum required. We got two red messages here. I know I did not meet the total expenditures here, and I did not meet the 61A1 funds program improvement requirement either. But if you did, it will be green in both. So it shows here that the total fiscal agency expenditures, the 7 million, it meets or exceeds the minimum required. So we have met that requirement. And then here it shows here that the total 61A1 program improvement expenditures, this is 5 million. And it shows that I have met that requirement by meeting or exceeding the 90% of 61A1s received. I'm sorry, are we all clear? Is everyone? Okay, so thank you for commenting if you're not having problems. Yes, I am reading the chat and I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything I can do on my end to help with connections. So that's why I put that in there. I'll pause the information. I don't want to let anyone miss any information that we're covering. Okay, so it sounds like there's some people that can hear me. Thank you for commenting in the chat that you can hear. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened, but we have several people that are still here. And there's nothing that I did on my end. Thank you, Diana. Okay, so we're gonna continue in just a minute. One second. Okay. So just trying to make this a little bit bigger. Can everyone see what's on the screen? Right now we're sharing a document that has the fiscal agency-wide totals on it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. We're going to continue to watch the chat. Hopefully, everybody is logged back in and they can hear and see. So here, this is just a document that shows the fiscal agency screens regarding whether or not you have met the requirements here. So both of the information is here. So if you have not met the requirement, it's red. If you did meet the requirement, it's green here. And it outlines the reasons. If you have not met that information, it's here. Scrolling down, you will find, this is beneath the fiscal agency-wide totals table, you'll find the expenditure list. And this list details the dollar amounts expended by your district, including the function and object code categories, the funding sources for each expenditure. So this is what that screen looks like. So as we can see here, 127 is the function code, that's CTE instruction. The object code is 3210, and that's for travel for teachers. It's applied to 61A1, $3,500. So then that total for that line there is 3,500. So all of the 61A1 is in the first column here. If it's other, like this example here, there's still CT instruction for function code. Teaching is the object code. That code is a little bit different, 1240. Applied 13,000 to 61A1. 61B has 10,400. Other is another additional 48,000. So then the total for that particular function and object code item is 71,400. So this just breaks down down here. This is equipment. This is indirect costs. This is administration and operation maintenance. This is expenditures, administration and operations maintenance, and then this is equipment. So you can print this document for your records that will outline all of the expenditures. This is at the fiscal agent level, all of the expenditures that were entered in. Again, the asterisk down at the bottom here gives us the note that the asterisks indicate program improvement items. So even on your fiscal agency worksheets and expenditure lists, you'll see the asterisks there indicating what's program improvement. So then going further down this report or this document, it shows how to submit the reports. And the process of actually submitting the report is still the same. So you would see the building name, you can return or complete at the fiscal level. So as a fiscal status, if I want to return the building, if something is not looking right in here, I would return that back to the building reporter. So that will open back up for the building reporter, and they can make changes and make edits and then send it back to the fiscal. So this report is only available at the fiscal level. The building reporter would not see this particular report here. What the building reporter would see is I'll go back. It would outline the information here as a building reporter. But a fiscal agent, if they log in, they can see that report that I was just showing on the documentation. So all of this information is in the system once the data is entered in the system during the spring. But once the building reporter inputs all of these items, then the fiscal agent will see the items on this list. And then the same would apply for the CPID. So this is a review guide for the CPID, and it has the information just as it does for the fiscal agent. So the fiscal agent will review and submit to the CPID administrator. And then for the CPID administrator, the submission process is still the same once you've done the review. So this is just a step-by-step guide. Again, this is available under review and run validation. So that's running the validation. And then I kind of touched on submitting your data in that document, but this is at the building reporter level. This is how you would submit. So we would hit the complete button as a building reporter, and then it would be transferred to the fiscal agent. And then this just kind of gives an overview of the fiscal agency process as well as the CPID administrator process for the building reporter to know. This here is documentation again for 61B. This is the submission process update effective 2022. So just follow those instructions there. And then again, 61B guide is outlined here if this applies, if you have 61B expenditures. So I'm going to navigate now to my train.ctis.com to the training site and my demonstration. So I am going to go on a brief pause while I switch my screens over to that. So just 1 second and you should see it pop up on your screen. Okay, we're going to go into our demonstrations. And so this is the training site. Again, you can navigate back to the CTEIS knowledge base by clicking on the links here at the bottom of the page by collection type. So you can collect, for instance, expenditures here will link you back to the documentation for expenditures. Again, this is just for your convenience. The dates on the side are the dates for the 2022, 2023 collection period, or this may be updated to 2023, 2024, but the information is here for, this is the OCTE calendar dates for the collection period. So here we're going to log in. So if you have your CTEIS screen, it should say log in using my login. This is a training site. So it looks similar to the actual CTEIS application, but some features of the training site is a little bit different. So I'm going to log in. And I'm going to log in as a building reporter. So this is what a building reporter would see. Okay, so under the data entry here, we want to click this. And as a building reporter, my access level is here. So I have enrollment access, I have follow-up access, and then over here to the far right is the expenditures access. Yeah, the someone in the chat said that the training site is slow. It does take a minute to load, but it should load. Yeah, it's a little slow. Okay, so the first item here is the expenditure entry. The second item here is expenditure review, expenditure import, and then distribution tables. The demonstration that I'm going to go through right now is the entry, and that's manually. So I'm going to click this. This is the screen for a CTEIS expenditure entry manual entry. Up here in the right corner is documentation. In the CTEIS application, if you click this, it should link back again to the CTEIS knowledge base, and it should link to the expenditures homepage, as well as the expenditure function and object guidance information. If it doesn't, we'll double check on that and make sure that those links work. But that's what you're linking to, is the knowledge base information that I just showed. So for this demonstration, I've only been given for this Breckenridge Community Schools, I only have one PSN. Only have one program, and that's an agricultural operations and related science program. And this is the PSN 15901. So this is the program that I will be applying expenditures to, because this is the only program that I have. So I'm going to click the icon here. And just to recap, collecting your expenditure information, or what you need to know is you need to know the amount of the expenditure you're reporting, the PSN for each expenditure, the percentage of the expenditure to be applied to each PSN if you're applying to multiple programs. And again, typically your finance office will provide you with the records you need. And then you can also generate a list. So as I stated earlier, if you want to generate a list, we'll go back. So we're going into expenditure entry again. So if I want to export to Excel, this is the list that I can print for my records of all of the programs that received expenditure or received funds the previous year. So again, because of this demonstration, I only have one, but once you log in with your credentials, you may have several here. You can use that information by exporting the document to an Excel export and printing from Excel all of the program information. If you need to generate a list of programs that are waiting expenditure entry. So when you're ready, again, we're going to click the icon here. If you have several, you might want to use the headers here to sort. You can type into these fields as well as sort if you have several that you need to sort between. So you can do that. Again, I just have the one for this demo. The first thing that we need to do once we have the program that we want to enter in expenditures for manually is select the function code. So again, an example of a function code might be 127 CTE instruction. For this one, I'm going to use you want to select your object code. And then you want to put in the actual total, the expenditure total. So again, pay attention to whether it's 61A1, 61B, 61C, or other. For this demonstration, I'm going to put it in the other column because this is not my 61A1 expenditure for this demonstration. So I'm going to put a number in here. I don't have any notes to add, but if I wanted to add a note for my review or to make sure that I keep something in mind, this note column, you can type in it. But if I have the expenditure that I want to enter, I can then enter expenditure. So hit the enter expenditure button. So it shows here that the expenditure is added. If you go down to the column or the panel at the bottom, it shows the actual expenditure. So it shows the PSN, the function code, the object code, and then the type of expenditure. I entered this under other because it wasn't calculated in my 61A1 for this demonstration. So it's here for Breckenridge High School. So this is the first one. Again, this is if you're doing a manual entry of your expenditures with the data that you receive from your business office. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through and enter in a couple other expenditures to kind of make this demonstration make sense in the end. I see there's a question, would this, would other be used if it was not one of the 61A or 61 funds, 61A1? I would, again, you want to make sure that that's correct if you don't need to apply it to any other category. But in this, yes, I do not want this applied to my 61A1 funds. So I put it under the other. 61B and 61C does not apply to me in this instance. So I would use the other. And if you do enter in information that is incorrect, you can you can click on the icon here and delete if you need to. So CTEIS is asking me, please confirm you want to delete this expenditure. I would hit OK. And then I would just re-enter in the correct information. So I'm just going to enter in a couple of examples here. So just be 1 second. Okay, so I entered in a couple of different examples here for this demonstration. This will make sense in the end. So again, you want to make sure that you enter in all of the expenditures for the programs that you have. So I only have the one PSN, so I applied it all to this PSN, but when you log in, you may have several programs that you need to spread across. You would pick the function code, the object code, and select where it applies. It may have 61A1 and other, or it may have 61B or 61C, but you need to make sure that you know that information and apply it to the correct function and object code. Once you have entered in that information, you hit the enter expenditure button, and then all of that information is here. If you need to edit, you can click on this and type in. This is a demonstration. Again, the capabilities of this site is a little bit different. So I had to delete when I entered in the wrong number. So I just deleted the record and entered it in the correct way. If I had notes, they would appear over here on the side, but I chose not to put in any notes in this demonstration. So that's they're not there. If I wanted to export to Excel this information that I input here, I can do that by clicking this button, and it will generate an Excel document that I can print from my records. But again, if you want to select all of the programs that received expenditures for the previous or for the spring in the spring report, you can use this export to Excel that will give you all of the information that you need here. As you can see, it says my 61A1 funds previously that I was awarded was $4,431.11. So for my 61A1 funds going forward, I want to make sure that I'm hitting that number here. Okay. The enrollment number is 61. So when I'm entering in my expenditures, I want to make sure again that I'm hitting the 61A1 and that of those 61A1 funds, 90% of those funds are program improvement items. So now I'm going to demonstrate a import. So I'm going to go back to the data entry and I'm going to go over to the import, expenditure import. And again, I have already created my file using the template. So just to show where the template is, going back to the knowledge base, this was the home page of the expenditures. We go down here and select expenditures header template. I showed you the guide. This is the header template that you can use. You can download this document in Excel and enter in all of your information. Again, for the funding code, we're using 11 right now. So for funding code, you would put 11. You would need your function and object code pertaining to how you want to expend the funds for those programs. You need the program code, the grant code, the school. The grant code is either 61A1, 61B, or the program code is the program, the SIP. Function object code, if it's a regular program or early middle college, and then the amount. So I have already set up my file. So I'm going to choose my file. So this here is my file, and I'm going to hit the load records. And this here, as you can see here, this one is green. This here, again, this is a training site, so some things kick out because of the capabilities that I have in training. But this here, this first one here for this amount here, so I have the funding code as 11 in my import. I have the function code as 212, the object code as 1220, my program code, which is my zip code. It's a 61A1. This one I do want to apply to my 61A1 funds. My school, my operating building number, and then this is a regular course. The amount that I want to apply to the 61A1 is $5,317.34, and I can go ahead and import that record. And that is correct. There's a question in the chat. Does the import override any manual expenditures already entered? It does. If you are importing the exact same information, if you're using the same PSNs, any current records for that PSN that match the function and object code, it will override. So please make sure that you're when you enter in or import your expenditures, you're keeping that in mind. So I'm going to import, and it shows that my import is successful. So now I'm going to go back to expenditure entry. That's my program. And as you can see, this one here, I did not include in my manual entry. I used different codes here. And then this is my 61A1 that was imported, and it shows that it was imported. So all of the remaining ones that I used manually, and then this is the one that I imported. So to give an example here, I'm going to go in and hit expenditure review as a building reporter. If that's all of the expenditures that I have, and again, you have to do this for all of the buildings that you have. Again, I only have one for this demonstration, but if you go through and you have entered in all of the expenditures, you need to go through and do this process for each building. So then I can hit the validation button. So for this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and run the validation as a building reporter. And then this shows here all of the information that I entered. So it shows the function codes, the object codes. Here, it shows that I have in my added costs received, I received last year $4,431.11. And then I didn't receive it. Excuse me. I didn't apply anything to 61B, 61C. So all of the information is here. This is under the columns here. So the 5,317.34 is a 61A. I didn't apply anything to 61B or 61C. This is the funds that I applied to the other. So it's totaling out for me here. If I want to just look at the other, you can click in this here pull this up here, and then it will give you just the other entries. So this is everything that I submitted under other. If you want to view by PSN, you can sort by clicking on the header here, the PSN, and it will sort. But this is how, this is all of the information as a building reporter that I would see. This is the screen that I would see as a building reporter. So if all of this information is accurate, I can then complete this building and send it to the fiscal agent. The same applies for the 61B. If you have 61B, it would then be sent to the 61B ISD. It will be sent to the fiscal ISD. All right, so then we're going to hit complete. Okay, for 61B funding, the guides are here. While I'm waiting on this to kind of update here, I'll go back. So the 61B guides are here. If you need to ask questions specifically to what qualifies, you need to reach out to your either your CPID administrator or Joan Church. That would be more of a policy question. Okay, as you can see here at the building status, I have submitted, this is again, I used a manual entry as well as, I used a manual entry as well as a import. So at the building status, you can see I can no longer enter in information for this building. So as a building reporter, that would be the last step, and I would be complete here. So that information has been sent to the fiscal agent at the bill for this collection period. Now I'm going to go back and demonstrate how to do a distribution table for a building reporter, and then we'll move forward towards the fiscal. So to go back in here, I hit data entry, and we're going to go down to distribution tables. Again, this procedure is not required. This is just an additional tool that CTEIS offers if you have funds that you want to spread across multiple programs by percentage. So I need to select the building. And again, for this demonstration, I only have one building. Previous year-end distribution table report. I can click this button to get the previous year's distribution table. However, I can use that information for my knowledge, but I cannot reuse distribution tables. So you have to create a new distribution table. So I can look at that information, but I can't reuse it. So if you want to view previous year distribution table, you can click that. If I click this, there's nothing in here because this is a training site. But if you click that, it will generate the details of the previous year distribution table. So I only have the one program, so I'm going to click this here. Again, this is not required. This is just an additional tool. So I've selected the program. I want to give it a name. So 1 second, let me click this in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change my screens here. So 1 second. I'm going to release this building so that I can put this distribution table in because I've already went through the process. So I'm going in as a fiscal agent and I'm just going to release the building back to the building reporter for this demonstration purpose. Okay, so we're still here. We're going to go ahead and create our distribution table. So I'm going to select the building. So that's the only program that I have. And I'm going to create a name for my distribution table. And for this one, I'm going to select student enrollment. But this is where you would create whether or not you want it to be evenly. If you want to do custom, like the instructions that I showed earlier, you can customize and put this specific percentage by using this option here for each program. You can customize the percentages, but I'm going to, excuse me, for this demonstration, use the student enrollment percentage. So I labeled it travel. I'm going to create the table. So that's going to be spread out by student enrollment percentage. So it says success here. So I've created that table. I can go in here under expenditure entry as we did before. I just want to show you where it is. And this is the distribution table. So it says DT here, and it has the title that I gave it, travel. So if I want to, as you can see here, it has the program information and the expense amount is 100%. Again, I selected the student enrollment percentage. So then, just waiting for this to load. So if I had not sent the information on to the fiscal agent, the columns would be open here. I can then click this and enter in the exact amount that I want to use for my distribution table. So I would enter in the number here, and then it will appear in the grid down here. So just give me 1 second and let me see if I can open up this other building. So 1 second, I'm going to brief pause. Just trying to, my permissions got a little stuck, so I'm having a little technical issue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 10-minute break right here while I get my screens reset. So I'm going to put on a counter for 10 minutes. So we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we only have a few things after that. So just give me we'll go on a 10-minute break, and then we'll come right back and finish out the procedures for the fiscal agent and the CPIT admin review, so we can show you how that process goes forward. So we're going to do that. I'm going to put on the counter, and we'll have a 10-minute break. Okay, we're back. Thank you for your time. We got it together. Got my screens back working, so we're back. We're going to go ahead and go back into our demonstration on the training site. So I'm going to log back in here. Okay, and this is as a building reporter. So I'm going to click, we were demonstrating how to create a distribution table. So under data entry, we're going to go through to expenditures and select distribution tables. And this is how we create the distribution table, by selecting the building, selecting the program, and then entering in the information here. I went through that before the break. What we're going to do now is I created that distribution table. We're going to actually put an entry into that distribution table. So by going back under data entry and going into the expenditure entry page, as you can see, the distribution table is here. This is the second item in my panel here. And I identified that by giving it a title of travel. So you want to pick one that you can identify so that you can find it easily. So you click on the icon there. As you can see here, the function and object code, I have to put in a function and object code for this distribution table that has the travel title. So I'm going to select my function code. Again, if you don't have function codes, using the function and object code guidance that's in the documents that we shared earlier. And then this is going to be another expenditure that I'm going to put under the other column. So I'm going to put in my expenditure. And I have already selected for my distribution table to disperse or to spread out these expenditures across student enrollment percentage. And again, if you do not select on the distribution table whether you want it to be a student enrollment percentage or all of your expenditures spread out by student enrollment, evenly distributed across all of your programs, the percentage is evenly distributed, or a custom percentage for each of the programs, the system will default to student enrollment. So that's the one that we have selected for this distribution table. And then I put in my amount here. So I'm going to hit enter expenditure, and it shows that the expenditure is added. So down here, I can see that I have the function and object code that I just put in, and then my expenditure amount here. So this is all of the expenditures that I entered in, whether I did it by import, it shows my import that I did earlier, and that was the 61A1 funds that I put in. So that's here. These are the ones that I did manually, and those are categorized under the other for my expenditures. So those are here. And then this last one was done by distribution table. That's going to spread out evenly across. It's going to spread that $4,014.66 across by student enrollment. So that's the percentage that it's going to use for that expenditure. So this is all of the expenditures that I have for this demonstration. What we're going to do now is go back to data entry as we did with the other. And we're going to go under expenditure review as a building reporter. And as you can see here, I can validate this building. So again, we're going to run the validation because I ran the validation with the imports and the manual example that I did earlier. but I just did a distribution table, so I want to run the validation again. So if you have a circumstance as a building reporter where the fiscal agent has to return the report to you to make corrections, you have to run the validation again. So as we see here, again, the added cost received for the previous year was 4,431,000. This is my 61B. I'm sorry, 61A1 that I entered in here. I did that by import. These are the columns 61B. I did not enter anything. 61C, I did not. And then this is my other column. And this is where all of my other funds are coming from. And then this last item here, this executive administration, was a distribution table that I had spread out. So then if all of this is, if this looks correct, I'm looking at my numbers and I'm looking at my 61A1 as the building reporter. So I'm checking in all of that. If all of my entries are accurate, I'm going to complete the building and send it to the fiscal. Again, once I complete the building, I cannot make any edits until the fiscal agent releases that building back to me. So I'm going to hit the complete button. And now it's sent to the fiscal. So I'm going to log out as a building reporter and show the fiscal side of this, because all of the expenditures are rolled up to the fiscal agent. And that's where we would see all of the building funds as well as the match. So we're going to go under admin as a fiscal agent and go under expenditure fiscal agency review. So as a fiscal agent, again, I can either complete or return, but this is the building. This is just a duplicate because of this training site. So ignore the second entry. It's only one building that I have. But I can return this building to the building reporter if I see that there are edits that need to be made. So this is the fiscal agency worksheet. And so this shows in the document that I showed earlier, this shows our funds here. Okay, so 61A1 funds received shows that it's 4,431.11, and the fiscal agency portion of the added cost is $5,908.15. The non-CTE cost is $69,784. Of that is the foundation allowance of $1,144 for the 61 students. And then the total required expenditures, the minimum that I had to meet for the required expenditures is $75,000. So if we look over here, this is the information that I actually submitted as a building reporter. So the total agency expenditures is $78,248.80. So it lets me know that my total expenditures have been met. I've met the minimum required of the 75,000 by hitting it with the 78. So I hit the total required expenditures portion. Now here it says the total section 61A1 program improvement expenditures. I have $5,317.34. Here it says the 61A1 funds expended in program improvement codes met or exceeded the 90% of 61A1 funds, but the total expenditures for 61A1 funds do not equal the funds received. So even though with the $5,000 that I put in, the $5,317, of that 90% of that was program improvement costs, I still went over and did not match the 61A1 expenditures total because it's 5,317 and not the 4,331.11 that I received previous year. So I'm going to go in and make the corrections that I need to make because I did not match here. We still have a red. So this here just shows the expenditure list. So as a fiscal agent, I can go through and look and I can say, oh, here it is. Here's the error. There's 5,317.34 here, but $4,431 is what we received for 61A1 the previous year. So I can then release that for that correction. This shows the 61B. If there were 61B funds, it would be listed here, 61C as well. And then this is the other. This is all of those other costs that I put in as far as improvement in instruction and the executive administration. So all of that hit the total required expenditures, but we still have that 61A1's expenditures to fix. So I can return that. That will release the building back to the building reporter. So for this demonstration, I'm just going to go in and put it in manually for this demonstration. So again, if you delete an item, CTEIS is going to want you to confirm. So I'm going to confirm that I deleted that imported item, and I'm going to go in and put in my 61A1. So I entered in that expenditure there. So I'm going to go back as a building reporter into expenditure review. Validate again because I put in a new entry. So as we can see, 4,431.11 was awarded, or is the added cost received, that I received the previous year. And now I have the 4,431.11 that I spent on 61A1 program this year. So I can now submit that by hitting the complete button and sending that to the fiscal agent. So I'm going to log off as a building reporter. I am done. I made that correction. I'm going to log back in as the fiscal agent. Go under fiscal agency review. So I have a question in the column here, for that example, wouldn't we need to move the access of the original amount to the other column, 4,331.11 to 61A1, but the remainder from the original need to go to the other? So if you're saying the difference between the 5,317.34 and the 44.31, I'm believing you. I believe that's what you're talking about. Yes, you could put that in the other column because you would have met in that example, I met the total expenditures. So yes, I could do that. But for the 61A1, it does have to be the exact amount to be that are received the previous year. So for 61A1, I only received 4,431.11, and that's what I have to make sure that it's in the system for this year. The rest of the remaining can go into the total expenditures under the other column. Yes. Okay, so as we see here, now we have two here. So the total fiscal agency expenditures, again, now it's the 77,255.07. So I have met the minimum requirement, which is the total required expenditures of the 75,000. I've met that by hitting the 77. It could be equal to or greater than the 75, and that's what I hit. As far as the 61A1 program improvement expenditures, the 4,311, I spent 100% of that on program improvement. So I did fulfill that requirement as well. So the total 61A1 funds expended in the program improvement object codes met or exceeded the 90% of the 61A1 funds received. So all of the information here, I hit the total required, that was one item, and then I hit the 61A1, that was the other item, and they are both green. So that means that this is complete, but you have to do this at the fiscal agency level. This demonstration was only one program in one building. You have to make sure that that information is accurate for all of your buildings at the fiscal level. So it gives the function code, the object code of the entries that I put in, whether it was 61A1 or other, and then the totals. And again, the asterisk indicates the program improvement items. So this is what I would see as a fiscal agent. And once I have approved this, I can complete this building. The same for 61A1. I'm sorry, for 61B, you would complete and send that to the fiscal ISD. I guess it's thinking here. 1 second. So now as the building reporter has sent it to the fiscal agent. The fiscal agent has now sent it to the CPIT status. But if you're 61B, you've sent it to the 61B fiscal ISD status. So now I'm going to log in as a fiscal agent. I'm already logged in. So as I log off and log back in, I hit the admin here. Again, for this demonstration, I've been given permissions for both fiscal agent and CPIT admin. So I will go under CPIT admin, expenditures review. And it's just thinking, okay, or loading. So this is the screen for the CPID admin, and this is what the CPID admin would see. Again, it's just as the fiscal agent, so all of the details for the program are indicated here, the fiscal agency worksheet, and then the fiscal agency wide totals. So all of the items would be listed here in the expenditure list. Mine is very short because I only did the one program with a few entries, but for all of the fiscal agency, I'm sure that list will be very long. So you have to make sure that you verify and review your the entries from your building reporter. So again, all of the requirements have been met. So we have green. So as a CPID, if I reviewed and all of the information is correct, I can then send this to OCTE by hitting the review button. And then it would lock this building as a CPID and send that information to OCTE. And this will be the end of the process for the expenditures collection. So I can no longer make edits as a CPID admin, and the fiscal agent can no longer make edits as the fiscal. So if we want to have that building released, we would have to contact OCTE. So then this is the end of the review page here. So all of the information, if I want to print this, I can go back. If you go back to admin here and you go to expenditures review by building, this here, this will give you listings of all of your buildings as a CPID. And the same is for the fiscal agent. So this is all of the buildings here. This is just a list of buildings. You can't submit from this page, but it would list all of the buildings that you can view all fiscal agency. So all of that export to Excel. If you want to print those records or keep that for your records, you can do that. Again, that's for the CPID as well as the fiscal. If you want to review by building, there's no submission links here, but you can use that information for your review and see all of the buildings. Again, you can view all and export to Excel if you want to do that. Okay, so again, we're going to go back to this is the homepage for the expenditures collection. All of the documentation that I went through, the step-by-step guides are here. The function, the guidance list of function and object codes are here. There's an additional here that was updated in 2022. If you want the templates for the expenditures imports, you can use the template here. There's a guide to show you how to set up your template, how to run the validation, and how to submit. This is the 61B monitoring tool guide. So if you have 61B, if that applies, you can read that information. And then the 61B submission process is here. So all of this information is, again, on the support site. So you can review that at any time. So I'm going to go back to the end of our agenda to just kind of highlight our dates again. So let me load that. I believe here you should be seeing the second page of the agenda, and this is the looking ahead. So again, the fall course and staff collection, fiscal agent submit to the CPID administrator by October 12th. This is the fall course and staff data. The CPID administrator submits to OCTE by October 19th. For this report that we just had training on, the expenditure report, the fiscal agent submit to the CPID administrator by November 2nd, and then the CPID administrator submits to OCTE by November 9th. So make sure you keep that date in mind. And then looking ahead, we're going into the follow-up reporting. So follow-up training begins October 17th. So if you have not registered to attend a training, please do so. And so this is the end of the information that we have for the expenditures training. At the end of this training, once I end the meeting for everyone, you will be prompted to fill out an evaluation. We would really appreciate your input. So if you click that link, you can fill out a survey of the training today, and we would really appreciate if you did that. But if you need to leave, Diana has dropped the training evaluation in the chat. You can click the link and leave if you don't want to stay to the end of the training. So at this time, I will not be presenting any more material. I'm going to go ahead and close out. I will stay on to answer questions on the information that we went over today. So I'll stay on for a few minutes. But if you are all set to go, you can use that link, and we will see you in the next training. So thank you for your time and attention. I'm going to officially end the training, and I'll stay on to answer any questions that you'll have. So we'll see you in the next training. Thank you all. And I see there's a question. So, okay. Thank you, Diana. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all for your time and attention. We'll see you in the next training. Have a good rest of your day.